My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireball's Dispatch, our monthly Q&A listener response game announcement topic episode.
I've got something for the beginning here, Gary.
Ooh.
Yeah. The mailbag, physical.
Oh, it's time for the mail roundup. Yeehaw.
Yeah. So we kind of hid this in a dispatch roundup. Somebody asked about P.O. Box. There is one. I don't want to say the address on here because these podcasts are out forever and that information can be outdated. But that information is available on Patreon. If you just do a search for P.O. Box, it's there. And if you want to send something, go ahead and hit it up there. I check that, once a week or so and figured this would be a good time to talk about, things that people sent. So, want to say thank you to Kay, just the initial K for sending us some lovely wood prints and a very nice little note.
Yeah. If you know the single letter from Planescape Torment, if you're also friends with that person, please say hi for me. That was very nice. It was very sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you for the letter. We're not trying to beg for stuff.
No.
But people are nice, and I understand. I've done that. Like I've sent things to people who I like. We just really appreciate it. We don't want anyone to think that we're don't notice.
Completely unreachable.
Yeah. Unreachable, and then also that we're unappreciative.
Yes.
It's very nice when people do that. We're very lucky. People are really nice.
Absolutely.
Love them.
Yeah.
Let's get started with some questions here.
Yeah. Start out with some game questions. First here from Francisco. What is your favorite superfluous game setting? These days, I find myself turning off every possible thing. Film grain, lighting bloom, depth of field, motion blur, 3D audio, controller vibration, trigger resistance, etc. It just gets too much for my faint post-30-year-old heart. But every once in a while, I do turn on a little screen shake and haptic feedback when I'm feeling indulgent. Ooh la la.
Ooh la la. Ooh la la. Ooh la la. I generally also turn these off. I don't like them for the most part. Motion blur specifically drives me a little nuts.
Oh yeah, no. The motion blur is kind of the what is it, like high frame rate mode or interpolation on your parents' TV kind of setting. It
should be illegal.
Yeah.
I don't want any of this. The only thing I will do every once in a while is I will turn on scan lines for certain games, especially if it is an old game that is re-released. Like I like playing something like the Dungeons and Dragons arcade games, those Capcom beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
With scan lines, that looks good to me, but that's it.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. My first thing I do is try to turn everything off.
Yeah. If the game was made with scan lines in mind, I try to do that as well. Like I'm playing Animal Well right now, and that rocking that with scan lines. Yeah. But for us, superfluous stuff. Favorite superfluous game setting? I would say the crazy walking in West of Loathing.
Oh,
yeah.
That's real fun.
Yes.
I mean, I was scan lines, I guess.
Yeah.
For me.
Okay.
The one I do. There aren't very many crazy walkings.
Yes.
Gotham, friend of the show, says, hey fellas, have you ever gotten into a game due to its meta/meme culture? Not much of an online shooter fan and had zero interest in Helldivers 2 when it was first announced. After my social media feeds became chock-a-block with gameplay videos of fail compilations and dudes being bros, the latter often set to Creed's One Last Breath, I decided to give it a go since the barrier of entry was pretty low and it looked like one of those so bad it's good situations. Ironic chuckles have turned into unironic joy as my gaming group now strives for weekly play sessions where we spend the night making Starship Troopers references to one another while getting utterly cooked. Has this happened to y'all before? P.S. Looking forward to seeing y'all in Milwaukee again this year.
Okay, we're not going back, but okay.
This year we were. PPS, Gary, the last time we were in Portland, we found ourselves at Raven's Manor, and of course we had to get the graveyard dip. On a scale of 1 to 5 necropolises, I'd give it a 3.5. It's the necropolis of spinach. That is the graveyard dip at Raven's Manor. I can't remember if I talked about that on Abject Suffering or Everything to Guppy or both.
It was definitely an Abject Suffering. You brought it as well because that menu was too good. This is like a goth themed, not goth really. What is it? Spooky restaurant bar.
I'm actually more interested in Haunted House than I am Aqua. Club Aqua. It's like an Applebee's in terms of quality of food and everything, but it's decorated like a haunted house.
Yeah,
and one waitress out of 10 is doing a bit. Like one person got the memo.
Yeah,
and the other people are just like, "What would you like?"
And the menu is full of stuff like French frites.
French frites. Or French frites, as they call them in other cultures, is actually more clever than this is. It's way worse than that. I wish it was that.
Yeah.
It's worth looking at the menu and the history online. It's a funny website.
Not really getting into a game via its meme culture. Sometimes if it oversaturates, I get my oppositional defiance starts acting up, and I'm like, okay, well, no, this is obviously not for me. The closest thing, like, this got me to try Lethal Company with the level folks, and that was fun. And also Content Warning, which is an extremely good co-op game.
Yeah, not really for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the meme game of something like. I'm not exposed to tons of memes.
Yeah,
through that, and I don't like multiplayer gaming generally. So yeah, I don't really have that. No judgment. Just not my tempo.
Glad it got you into a game that you and your friends enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And nothing against the Helldivers. I've looked at it and it looks. I don't like playing video games with other people. It's a weird switch that turned in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know it's not new. I talk about it all the time. Gaming is a solitary activity, but and drives Will nuts. Will is frustrated with me that I don't like playing video games with people, but I just don't like it anymore. Every once in a while, I'll play like a urge to play a co-op game with Derek, where just catch up and shoot the shit.
Yeah.
But getting a group of people to play a video game together no longer fits my lifestyle.
Yeah.
I do tabletop for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I'm feeling a little bit more open to it. And Helldivers is a lot of cool decisions made in Helldivers gameplay wise, but still generally not.
Yeah.
Matthew writes, Mr. Cole, speculation on the Bachelor route for Pathologic 2 is going bananas. I've been replaying Pathologic 2 recently, and I've had it on my mind a lot. That being said, I feel Pathologic 2 has one major downgrade from the first game, other than the music: the voice performances. I will defend to the death the cadence and direction of the original game's voice actors. Pathologic 2 sounds good in Russian, but it being a language I don't speak means there's a limit on how much I can appreciate it, and I actually really dislike the English voice performances. Voices do not match the characters, and the line delivery is exceedingly straightforward, even stock standard and mediocre. Any opinion on this? We'll answer this one first, and there's a second one here. I also am a little bit turned off by the voice acting in Pathologic 2. It is not entirely voice acted, but the lines that are, I agree, it is pretty straightforward and lacks the surreal disconnectedness of the basically barks that people would do when you talk to them in Pathologic 1. I think, I think it is a downgrade.
Yeah. And then the second question is for me. When we covered Pathologic 1, I said I had no interest in the remake. Now that years have passed, I've had time to heal, whether I'd be open to the idea of covering it. It's more fun than the original, says Matthew. Sure. I didn't know what the remake would be.
Yeah.
At the time we recorded that, there was just the idea of a remake going on. And I didn't know if that was going to, remake can mean tons of things. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't want to play a graphical update. Or something stupid like that. Yeah. So sure, it's just about having the time and energy to do something hostile.
Yeah. It's a really long game. At least the Harrispex campaign is, and that's kind of hard to fit in. I streamed like the first 5 or 6 days before it got impossible for me to continue. So I'm going to try and make another run at it here at some point.
Yeah, I have an interest in it, but it's not a burning interest. This being something that I respected more than I enjoyed at the time I played it. And it is again, like you said, hard to fit in the show, and a thing where it's like, you don't have to play it multiple times, but you kind of, there's a lot of the story too, if you play it with all the 3 paths,
right?
Which I'm a little bit allergic to, that, just triples the length. So
Yeah.
there are things that make it a hard fit for the show.
Yeah.
Not again it.
At that, the talking about this speculation on the Bachelor route, it is looking very different than the Harrispex route. So I'm curious about that. It sounds like they're way more intentionally trying to differentiate the play between them.
Which is a weird thing that makes the game cooler, but makes it harder to cover.
Yes.
For the show, because it basically doubles the length of the game.
Triples.
It triples the length of the game. It almost has to be a month. And then it's like, well, are we covering this game for a month that a lot of people have not played? And we talked about that a little bit last episode, I think, last dispatch.
Yeah.
We don't overly take that kind of stuff into account, but we do think about it. So there's just difficulties. Not against it on a long enough timeline. I see it happening. I don't know when.
Yeah, just have to find a way.
Would be my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Andrew says, which 4 game characters would go on each of your personal Mount Rushmores, and which deserve to be in the gaming community, gross, Mount Rushmore? Gaming Mount Rushmore is not located in unceded native territory.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, thank God. The Mushroom Kingdom land acknowledgement.
Yeah,
no longer necessary for this. Yeah.
They did not specify if this was game characters or if this was game creators.
It does say game characters.
Oh, does it? Okay, which game characters? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, they spell and pronounce those words differently.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about the gaming community Mount Rushmore.
That's easy. It's like Mario, Master Chief.
Yeah.
The guy from The Last of Us, and then like I don't know.
Yeah.
Duke Nukem or some shit. That one's just going to be Garbo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine ours would probably be really similar.
yeah, kind of. There's definitely some overlap.
Yeah.
Like when I think of the gaming characters who I like the most, like my favorite gaming characters, it'd be like it's always hard because you feel that urge to do a variety. It's the same thing that happens whenever I'm like checking my gut for my top 10 games, like one of those things comes around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at the end of the day, I have to reckon with the fact that I like Disco Elysium more than I like Super Metroid. But do I need to represent something from the 90s in my childhood?
It's a personal Mount Rushmore, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like so it's kind of hard to do. So like I don't know, like JC Denton would be in there for me. I love that man.
Yeah. Barry Burton.
Yeah, Barry Burton's really good. That's a good one. So somebody from Resident Evil for sure.
Yeah.
Like Barry Burton, Wesker or something.
Yeah. King Kitsuragi would probably be on both of ours, right?
Yeah. Kim's really good. Kim would be there. And then maybe like, I don't know. That's tricky.
Yeah.
Like the nameless one or something.
I was going to guess yours would be Mort, but yeah.
Yeah. Mort, something like that. Somebody who's real up there.
Yeah.
The who are the 4 walls of your gaming Mount Rushmore gamers?
Yeah, let us know in the comments. I don't know that we have comments on this.
like, rate, and subscribe in the comments.
Jordan and Maya write, hi there, y'all. I have recently had my love of X-Men revitalized by X-Men 97, and my friends asked me to run some tabletop gaming with everyone's favorite merry mutants. Superhero TTRPGs, however, have had a problem since their inception. Inevitably, the question comes up, Cyclops, what are you going to do this round? Take a guess. Take a wild guess what Cyclops is going to do this round. They continue. Not to mention, kinetic and visual medium is very difficult to measure up to without vast prep by GMs, and it is difficult to keep the pulse-pounding action up. In the end, tabletop RPGs might not be it for superhero action. Do y'all have any other genre/medium mismatches that have subject matter and execution clanging violently with one another that you find particularly noteworthy?
I think that's a really good example.
Mm-hmm.
And I would extend it. So I tried to run a superheroes game before in Mutants and Masterminds, which is one of the bigger superhero tabletop games. And you can do it as like a deconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
You can do like a The Watchmen. It's really hard to do it really big. The example I would have, which is also a tabletop thing, which is kind of a cheat, is Feng Shui, which is a tabletop game that is meant to do over-the-top kung fu action. And the issue that has is it's not hard to do. The rules support it, but it just ends up becoming a thing where like you're sitting around a table seeing who could out-talk each other with just maximalism.
Just describing really cool kicks.
It's describing kicks, and like it basically becomes like a kid describing a Dragon Ball episode. Like, oh, then the punch was so big it knocked over a mountain, and then somebody be like, well, this punch was so big it knocked over a planet, and they ran over like 10,000 ninjas on the way to fight the samurai, and then stopped and drew their sword. Like it's just describing things that are not things that necessarily appeal to me, but from my understanding academically of the appeal, it is in the visual language of it. Like if you're just saying what happens, like you jump and then you say a really high number instead of seeing the jump, it's not very impressive.
It's just like it has to be like any kind of tabletop. Like, yeah, the mechanics are there, it keeps things on rails, but like it does in the end have to exist in the imagination and in words, and something that is story. Primarily story forward is going to be necessary. Like it's gonna work the best.
And if you have no bounding box on that, like it just becomes like a line by line description of what happens in Advent Children. And that to me, I don't think is a very good match for what the appeal would be for Advent Children if you're a weirdo who likes Advent Children.
Right.
Like if I put myself in the mindset of somebody who likes that combat aesthetic, I don't think that gets across in just people saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is basically, same answer as Jordan, but just Jordan and Maya, but like another example of the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is a hard thing to do.
Yeah. Wasn't there like way back, there was something that I thought that seemed like it was superhero. Is Exalted one of them? Is that a system?
Exalted is like you are like gods.
You are gods.
It's,
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of superhero-y and a little bit, but you're like super gods.
Gotcha.
You're like the Eternals.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think of genre media mismatches, I don't know. I end up thinking about. I don't know that we've ever found like any more than maybe one or two video game comics that have worked at all.
Yep. That's a really good one. Like those tend to be bad. Like I kind of like covering them because they're dog shit.
Yeah.
But it's the pleasure of dog shit, not the pleasure of goodness.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
we found that one that one run of Bloodborne, the Healing Thirst, and the Plants vs Zombies comic. If you are a child,
yes, it's cute.
Yes,
yeah. So yeah, that's a good. And again, it's the same kind of thing. Like the movement, like even just the visual style of something moving, is not portrayed.
Yeah.
Well, in a comic, even comics that do kinesthetics really well. Chapel says, what's the best trap in a game? Not type of trap, but actual instance of one trap. I think it's hard to beat the Lightning Spear mimic in Sen's Fortress, a trap so mean it made people hit every single treasure chest in the series for the next 11 years. It's a great example.
It's a good, I mean, in that same room, the elevator that if you don't notice that it's bloody, you won't get off in time before it Mission Impossibles you. Yeah. Yeah,
I love that. My answer was when it was general, I was just going to say Mimic, obviously. Mimics are phenomenal. I'm going to say, because I think that Chapel's example probably is the best. I'm going to throw out the Door Lord from Enter the Gungeon. The fact that you can go into a boss and instead of a boss that you're prepared for spooling up, the door comes to life and fights you is real good.
Yeah. My favorite, it's going to be FromSoft again, but way back in Kingsfield 1, when you're like, oh gosh, like walking above the ant tunnels, there is the sign at the end of the hallway, and it's an illusory floor, so you fall through and get into the ant tunnels and have to deal with them. When eventually you get a spell that will let you get across that, if you go back and cross that gap and read the sign, it says danger ants.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's so good.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Gaz writes, multi-part survival horror question from me. Do you think survival horror peaked in the 90s and that modern games will never be able to recapture that magic, as a lot of it had to do with the technical limitations at the time, such as pre-rendered backgrounds and fixed cameras? Do you think it's possible for developers to recapture that 90s survival horror magic in the future? Tormented Souls did a pretty good job. What would you both like to see from survival horror going forward? Taking into account everything that has come previously, which bits do you want to keep or add to create the perfect survival horror game?
Yeah, good question.
Mm-hmm.
You've definitely played more of these than I have. I'll let you go first. I have like some ideas, but
yeah. I definitely think that these games did peak in the PS2 era. I don't know that is a question. After that, they changed into very different kinds of things. You have Amnesia, which is an inflection point that kind of became a lot of narrative focus, walking around, style horror games.
It's kind of ground zero for the Flashlight House thing.
Yes,
which even though we both love Amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
Flashlight House is not great.
Yes. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think embracing technical limitations, which aided because they had to be very intentional with the camera. And when you are mimicking cinema as much as horror games do, being intentional with the camera is, I think, especially worthwhile. Is it possible for people to recapture the 90s survival horror magic? Absolutely. They've done. Tormented Souls is a really good example of that. I'm playing Crow Country right now, which is very good. That might get like the Amnesia the Bunker slot this year for cool game Cole streamed that we're going to talk about on here. You'd love it, Gary.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's absolutely possible. You just have to mimic it, and then some great synthesis has been brought in from there. As far as what to keep going forward, I think a lot of stuff can either be thrown in or left out. But what is super important to me is the puzzle box space. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Resident Evil 2 remake, though it is over the shoulder and, actiony and shooting, that still feels so classic because you have the whole police station that you're going through, and that game kind of falls off like most Resident Evil games do after you're out of the police station and get into the lab. Right. I think that puzzle box space is there. Not every developer who tries to make their version of this keeps that. Signalis being a huge example of a game that I like, but definitely suffers from being a series of levels as opposed to a big, massive space that you're going around. I would say Tormented Souls and Crow Country get this right by having a big puzzle box space. That is necessary to me.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say peak necessarily. My only contribution to this is that I like it when survival horror games keep the survival part.
Yes.
As part of it. I love Amnesia and I like a walking sim, but I think, something like Amnesia the Bunker, the reason why that was so refreshing is because it added back in resource scarcity. To me, survival horror, the synthesis there that makes something, that makes fear not a survival horror game and just kind of a horror shooter is that privation.
Yeah.
I like that feeling a lot. And I agree. I think that plays with the puzzle box space stuff. Something about, Signalis, which I was cooler on than you were, and I agree with you about the spaces feeling bad in that was that there was an econ, I was trying to hold on to ammo and stuff like that. But because it was one half of an equation. In a Resident Evil and a puzzle box thing, I'm keeping track of my ammo, but I also have a good idea of what I need to do with it. Like I'm working a number versus how far I need to go. I'm making this run out into a thing. What do I need? And Signalis never got that for me. I would know how much ammo I had, but I was always basically going to new zones where I didn't really know what I'd be facing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing where there was backtracking through stuff I may know that gave me no opportunities for like surprise and stuff. Like it weirdly, even though it apes that thing kind of on its surface in terms of ammo and the controls, it felt like the survival part was missing for me.
Yeah.
Kind of through two parts of those.
Yeah. As opposed to continuously throwing you into new situations, something that is great is walking into a room and saying, nope, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
And then going around and then getting back to it. Right.
Yeah. Or like I just saved. I'm going to see what's in here and I'm probably going to die.
Yeah.
I just got to see what's going on. Like there's a lot you can do with it, I think. With that. So yeah, but there's no reason to think it's gone. Like I think that it can definitely, the 90s were a style of it. The Amnesia, the Bunker could not be made in the 90s because of woke. And but that has had, weird roguelike elements and things that came into style afterwards. Yeah. And I think is a really strong example of the genre.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's move on to other questions so we don't just camp out on games the whole time.
Let's do. This is more of a comment. Oh, sorry. This is you. Yeah.
That's okay. Shane says, Gary, thank you for sharing your ball health story. I recently had a similar health scare, but it was made less scary by remembering that you went through it and came out fine. No cancer here, just a swollen epididymis, a beam at my didymis, and now my didymis is big. Everyone should talk about health stuff. I'm very happy that turned out okay. Happy to be of service. It makes me think of, so Andre 3000 put out that like amazing flute album, this year. That's really good. And it has no rapping on it. Like, caution, contains no bars. Yeah. And, he talked about it in interviews and he said, I'm 50. What am I going to talk about? Getting a prostate exam. And Open Mike Eagle, who is a national treasure, said a thing. He's like, yeah, you should rap about that because it might lead to more people getting their butts checked. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, like destigmatize all of this stuff. It was funny when it happened. I'm glad it's done now, but at the time it was scary, but like that's life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go get your balls checked.
Get anything that can get that, get them. Yeah. Check it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's worth keeping an eye on your health.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Very happy that turned out to be okay, Shane.
Yes. Me as well. Exotic Minivan writes, what are some of the jobs you've had? You don't have to say where. I'm always surprised when Gary is telling a story that starts with, when I was working at blank, it's always something different. Gary, are you making up stories about your past?
No, I've just had a lot of jobs. Yeah. I have worked in order at a shady warehouse thing where we may have been stealing. I mentioned that. Taco Bell, a place called the Public Opinion Laboratory, which is telephone surveying. There's very little laboratory stuff was going on. In retrospect, the laboratory part of that was a little bit of a misnomer.
They did make you wear white coats.
Yeah, it was so little science happened at the Public Opinion Laboratory. Going down to the lab. That's very funny. At an athletics office, the copier program, police dispatch, copier program again, temping for Pendleton catalog here in Oregon, Fred Meyer, School of Business, office work, an escape room, and this.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And then one night where I did Geeks Who Drink trivia. I think that's it. Okay. Yeah, which was awful. Or 2 nights. I did one, and then one training night, and then one night where I told that story before.
Yeah.
Those are all the jobs that I've had.
Yeah, because I'm younger than Gary, and I hit this job earlier. I have fewer. So I will say, I was used for child labor for my family whenever they did concession work at fairs, things like that. Then as child labor, my friend, their parents owned a golf course. So I did a bunch of just gopher tasks over there. driving people around on carts, just going and doing basic grounds maintenance kind of stuff. I sold popcorn at the mall, being paid under the table at a popcorn cart. Yeah.
Secret corn.
the secretest corn. I worked at GameStop pretty much consistently between 2003 and 2011, maybe 2012. So too much time there. I was an intern on the soap opera As the World Turns, a production intern, which mostly was carrying scripts up and down stairs. Let's see. Then I was, a broadcast supervisor at that radio station that did reading for the blind. So doing audio engineering, working with volunteers, stuff like that. I did one day working at a document scanning and shredding place because I was very desperate for a job in 2011 after I had to move back in with my parents. Then I got my job as first a producer and then a bunch of other shit, ultimately creative lead at that video marketing company, the digital marketing company. And I was there from 2011 through to 2018. And then this. Yeah.
Those are the jobs.
Oh, I forgot Ruby Tuesday. I worked at Ruby Tuesday for, I think, 2 months as the salad bar person.
Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday.
It sucks so bad.
It's interesting that there are places where there's just no job there is okay. You know, like it's just like the salad person. And at one level, I'm like, well, that probably wouldn't, out of things you could do at Ruby Tuesday, you know, that could maybe not be the worst one.
Yeah.
But then you realize they're all the worst one.
Oh, it's terrible.
Like every single thing that I do at Ruby Tuesday would suck.
Yeah. The salad bar person during the lunch shift, which is the only time they worked me, also had to wash dishes. So yeah,
there's definitely no chance of cross-contamination there.
No, not at all.
No. Moving on to media questions. Glasgow Bear says, hey guys, absolutely love all your shows. Just caught up on Best Quality Vacuum recently. Top stuff. Thank you. Apologies if I've misunderstood the ask, but I wanted to recommend a movie for Unfilmable. I'm currently sat watching The Faculty for the second time and thought it'd be a good candidate. I forgot how relatively star-studded the cast was, despite seeming like some sort of B movie. I'm not sure that you would call what you would call it, as I'm no movie expert. Is it a cult classic? I honestly can't tell if it's good or bad. Anyway, I thought it'd make a good episode. And the thing that sparked it for me was a scene near the beginning where the teacher in the classroom references the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Keep up the awesome work. Your show's got me through tough times. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's about a cult that is teachers.
Yeah, it's teachers, teacher cult, and then the kids find it out. It is a star-studded cast for this. Not like huge people, but you've got like Elijah Wood in there. Jon Stewart is in there. Piper Laurie is in it. Yeah, I saw that a long time ago. It was a really popular movie. You know, when I was like preteen, like my brother watched it and liked it, so I watched it alongside him. I remember basically nothing about it.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
As a thing, I'm kind of enjoying this exploratory phase of Unfilmable, of like stuff we haven't seen.
Yeah.
Has been kind of fun. And the movie that has the most in common with that I want to do at some point is Flatliners.
Oh yeah.
Which is, you know, that's scudgy. That's a scummy classic. Yeah. But I'm not opposed to it. Maybe I'll put it on at some point.
Yeah.
You know, no, I like cults.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, having the teachers be the cultists is a way to get high school themes in there, I think, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. AJ writes, hi there, it's Apricot here. I checked out The Tubs based on Gary's recommendation in a Quackstack episode. You had me at Jangle and fell in love with their album. If either of you have any further recommendations to share along those or other lines, I'd be delighted.
Oh, Viva La Tubs. That's great. I listen to a lot of music that sounds like that. A lot of it isn't new, you know, so I listen to a lot of 90s stuff that sounds like that, 90s and 80s stuff. I have recently been on a big Let's Active kick, who were peers of REM.
Yep.
In the 80s who do 80s jangle stuff, and throwing out one of my perennial recommendations, which is, I love Guided by Voices, but the other songwriter in that band, Tobin Sprout, his solo stuff has a jangly naivety that I think is naivety rather. Not jangly nativity. That's when Michael Stipe was born. But has a jangle, like a naiveness that I think is really beautiful. The songs sound almost simple to write in that way, too simple to write, like almost like they came with the universe.
Yeah.
And he has a really good voice. And does kind of versions of that. It's not quite as hard as the tubs can get. Like the tubs aren't super hard, but they use a little bit more distortion.
Yeah.
But the reason why the tubs are so refreshing to me is because there aren't a lot of bands that sound like that now.
Yeah.
So I think you have to go back to the 80s and 90s to get a lot of that. And Heavenly. You should check out Heavenly. That is a band from the 90s. Came out of the ashes of Tulu Lagash, which is a Scottish band. They are doing a reunion tour. I'm going to be able to go see them in the fall, and I'm super excited. I did not realize they would still play ever. So check out Heavenly.
Nice. The only one that I have that might match that, the Dexatines bands for just everything I listen to is 2000s indie stuff. They've got some of that jangle, like the bassist is also in the Drive By Truckers, so you get a little bit of that in it. Yeah, Dexatines.
Go music.
Go music.
Skylar says, new patron here. I just finished your coverage of the Castlevania Netflix series on Adaptation Decay. Your opinions all seem similar to mine, but I thought season 2 was by far my favorite. Wondering if you had any intentions of covering the show further. Love to know what you guys think. Thank you for the content. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not on the schedule now. I'm not opposed to it. I've heard that it gets better.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that TV is a commitment to output ratio that is slightly hard in not just the commitment, like watching a 10 episode TV show isn't so much, but then fitting it into one episode of the show is hard. And then it's like, well, do we do it over multiple shows? Because if so, that show comes out once a month.
Yeah.
That gets a little awkward.
We're running into this with Fallout, which is a show that both of
Yes.
us love. And it's like, how do we cover it? Because it is something that needs to unfold over an entire season.
Yeah. There's stuff that I've had some ideas, like we floated the idea of a mini series. One of the things I was thinking about, and this would work for Castlevania as well, is to zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing beat by beat, rewatch it, take notes on our impressions of the episodes and like what generally happened.
Yeah.
And then just kind of call out our favorite bits. And that, I don't know if that'd be satisfying. We've never really tried that before. We have a really kind of set way that we do media.
Yes.
On the show. So that's kind of the thing stopping us from that.
Yeah.
Not opposed to it.
No, not at all.
I've heard it's better.
And then there's that Castlevania Nocturne as well, which I hear is good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is the same thing that I also would love to talk about The Witcher at some point, which is not a video game adaptation strictly, but kind of is. There's several TV things like this that runs into a little bit of a problem.
Yeah. Cable's Geralt is basically pulled directly from the games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm interested. It's a thing where I want to watch it, so it's not, and this even runs into stuff that I don't want to watch. Like if we were going to do the Twisted Metal show, this is how we do it. I did find a huge treasure trove of movies that are, if you die in the game, you die in real life.
Oh, how'd you find
Just
that?
throwing that out there. TV tropes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That is a patron suggested a movie we're doing this upcoming month, which I'm very excited about. And I was like, I bet you, if anyone, those tropers are going to have a list of these.
Yeah.
There's many of them we have not done. And then TV shows where that happens. It almost makes me wish that Adaptation Game was just that. There should be a show that's just that trope because it's so fucking fun.
Oh, it's the best. It's absolutely the best trope.
It's so awful. Have you watched the trailer for the movie we're watching?
No.
Oh, you owe it to yourself. Watch the trailer will get you hyped. It is 2x pimpy, 3x bait levels of hype. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's premium scum.
No, we talked about what we're going to cover next month, and I was like, hey, just based on the pitch, that sounds like a real fun one to do. I haven't seen the trailer of it, so yeah,
it's worth watching.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's going to be real fun.
So IMDb probably has a tag for this, but I'm not doing very well at finding it. So
this is where the tropers come through.
Yeah, the tropers are good. Yeah, there's a little bit more human curation. Yeah.
Pure octane nightmare fuel. Let's do it.
Let's do one more. Sorry. Mike writes, what is the band, artist, franchise, or other assorted piece of media that most people throughout your life have tried and failed to get you to enjoy?
What a good question.
Yeah.
This is.
I mean, at this point, us not doing Nier Automata is a bit. It's a tradition in and of its own. Even if I like the part of it that I've played.
Yeah, that's for the show. Like personally, though, what has somebody tried to get you into?
Personally, man, I don't know. Game of Thrones. Right. I got like a few chapters into the first book and I was like, yeah, this isn't really doing it for me. Watched the first season of the show and I was like, if Ned Stark's gone, I kind of don't know that I want to watch the rest of this. It just,
he does come back as a Revenant.
Oh, does he?
No.
I could believe anything, and that is proof that I have not continued.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's dumb, but yeah, there's that. There are probably various bands that people have made an attempt, but never insistently enough that it kind of stuck out of my memory. There was a period where everybody was Game of Thrones built, and thought because of my interest that it was going to be for me, and just not for me.
Yeah. My two answers for this are the band Yo La Tengo, who I have nothing against. I just don't, it doesn't jazz me, but it would make sense for it to jazz me. So a lot of people bring them up. And then the biggest answer for this, I'm not saying this to make anybody mad, is Monster Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time there's a new Monster Hunter, I am told this is the one that I will like, and it's the most friendly one in the series. And it solves all of my problems with it. And then when I try it, I am disappointed.
It's still Monster Hunter. Yeah.
It's still Monster Hunter. I just don't get that game. And it has to be okay. Like it just, the loop is not good to me. It's fine. I'm not compelled by that loop. I don't want to kill dinosaurs and make clothes out of them.
Yeah.
To kill better dinosaurs and make better clothes out of them. It's just not fun for me.
Go with God. I'm not going to stop you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where like, you're like, I don't really like this. And people like some people will just be very shocked. It's like you're saying you don't like pizza.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, it just doesn't work for me.
You have to understand that it's not for everybody. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
it has to be okay. So that's probably in terms of instances, that is probably the number one.
Yeah.
I had, in terms of individual, like one person, I have a friend, one of my best friends, who tried to get me into the Residents like 3 times a year, every year for like 5 years. Every time they put out an album or he would find a new thing, he'd be like, this is the one that would unlock the Residents for you. And it never did. Like, that is, I am too pop pilled for that. That is too experimental and wacky for me. But that was just one person doing a campaign.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. It is strange. Like some people, it becomes a thing. And I get it, but I think it comes from a good place generally.
Yeah.
It's just maybe a little misguided.
It just, if they continue after you say, no, I don't, it's not for me, then it becomes a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Do one show question, then lightning round.
Yeah.
Topic.
Let's do that.
Eric says, howdy fellas, ready for your monthly unsolicited show suggestion? Here it is. Unfilmable, but about 80s fantasy films. The people are hungry for y'all to go long on the likes of Crawl and Dragon Slayer, Legend, and Deathstalker. Think of all the fucked up little guys you could talk about.
I was not on board until the very end.
Oh, this is one of the best genres of movie.
Oh, it absolutely is. I just don't have I don't have a whole lot of catalog. Like I'm more in the weird sci-fi kind of angle. So your Zardozes and whatnot, Logan's Run kind of things. So
this is it would be. I don't have enough catalog of this, but I would like to have catalog of it. Every time me and my wife see one of these, like on VHS, we buy it, and it's like Demon Slayer, what the fuck is this? And it's just got a guy on the front, and it's like this is going to be their production. You'll talk to the guy who's selling it, and you'll be like, "How is this any good?" And they're like, "Well, it's one of those movies that came out. They shot it in Spain in the 80s, so there are a lot of horses in it." And you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, that doesn't answer my question even a little bit. But this stuff is, I love it. There's a Facebook page that I joined that's like swords and sorcery movies of the 80s.
Okay.
And seeing way more of them than I thought I knew about before. The answer is no, because we can't do another show.
Right.
But I share your interest in this subgenre.
Mm-hmm. It's a good show for somebody else to do, right? I think that this would benefit from having the classic smart guy, dumb guy kind of setup, where somebody who was really into these and had a lot of pass with them, like was introducing it to somebody who has no antibodies for any of what goes on, I think.
And they're just being asked to accept Adar the Beastmaster without any prep.
Yeah.
Like, just absolutely no preparation, free use Dar. Like, that like, oh, so he can talk to animals? Well, kinda. Just that would be great.
Yeah.
The He-Man, this dovetails with sci-fi all the time. Did you ever see the Masters of the Universe movie?
No.
From the shitty He-Man movie?
No.
Like it is a fantasy movie, but it also involves the people from He-Man getting isekai'd onto Earth. Like,
I love it.
And the plot, it ends with a nerd guy who's been hanging out with him learning how to play a keyboard line on a Casio. That's how he fights Skeletor at the end.
Isn't that basically what happens in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? A little bit?
A little bit. Except this is a specific melody.
Okay.
It's not just like writing a good song.
Okay.
He has to learn the super melody that fights Skeletor. It's a bonkers movie.
That is a very good cheat to just bring the fantasy characters into our world because costumes are much cheaper than sets.
Yeah, so much so. Like every once in a while they go to a blasted plain and it's like, oh, that's Eternia. And it's just like salt lands.
Yeah, it's just West Utah.
Yes. That's Eternia. It's also they made it now. I would love it if the He-Man had the same proportions they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone would look like a Bobo from the Double Dragon movie.
Yeah.
If you ever look at a He-Man, they've got
yeah.
It's not a good body.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Now into the lightning round. Nina writes, do devs ever react or respond to your coverage of their games? If so, what has that interaction been like? Mixed bag.
Yeah, mixed bag. Yes, this happens. I typically don't like it, even when it's nice. Like it's still kind of sweet. Like somebody will like retweet, the thing, and that's cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. They'll be like, oh, this coverage of stuff. But we do, the critical approach we have is warts and all.
Yes.
And that can hurt some feelings because people work really hard on things. We try really hard to, when we're saying like this didn't work for us or I wish this would have been better, that we're not trying to undermine the amount of work that went into something.
Yeah.
Like I understand that it's work, and it's also a lot of the things that we'll talk about. Like there's this is a perspective that's always really important for us to get across.
Yeah.
It's one person's thought. These are some things that work really well for a lot of people.
Yes.
So like, for example, like Salt and Sanctuary was not either of our favorite things. Like neither of us particularly liked it. The developers listened to Bonfireside Chat and listened to that, and it kind of hurt their feelings, and I felt really bad about that.
Yeah, and they were not like angry with us. It was just they
were fine.
We posted the link, and they're like, "Oh, we're so excited," and then there was a response like, "Oh."
Yeah, and that broke my heart a little bit. I felt really bad.
I did. Yeah,
I hadn't done anything wrong, but they hadn't done anything wrong either. It's just
they made a game.
It's just how it is.
Yeah,
exactly. It'd be like, if your favorite band, if they or a band you liked, I'm not saying a band you liked, listened to your band and didn't like your band. That doesn't mean your band is bad, and it doesn't mean they're wrong to not like it. They're not supposed to pretend they like it. If you meet it's just the asymmetrical nature of the communication, right? Like if we were at a place and we met those guys, we're not going to be like, hey, out of nowhere, here's all the things we don't like about your game.
Yeah, get out of my sight. You made this game that I thought was well-intentioned, but a little too rough in a lot of places.
Yeah, like you wouldn't do that. You'd just be like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like, you'd be normal about it. But because the remit of the show is to talk about that kind of stuff, it's what the show's there for.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up feeling weird. Generally. And it's the double-edged sword of doing more indie stuff.
Yes.
Like if we talk shit about BioShock Infinite, nobody who worked on that is likely to hear about it.
And nobody who worked on that still is employed at that studio.
Or would disagree with us.
Yeah.
Because what happened. But because we don't want to just cover big anonymous games, sometimes there is a more personal relationship like that. And it just it does feel bad.
Yeah.
To me.
So best example of this was Frederick Olson from Frictional tweeting at me saying, hey, we listened to the Watch Out for Fireballs episode and we loved it about the bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
That was really nice. I appreciated that. The worst example, I'm not going to put them on blast because it is a small developer. There was a game that we covered that we didn't really like, and somebody emailed saying, hey, your bad review brought our Metacritic down. We would like to talk with you and discuss what we can do to get that back up. And I checked.
Oh my God.
We're not factored into Metacritic at all.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a thing where that was sent out to multiple people.
Maybe.
I didn't know about that. I'm learning about this live.
Yeah. I didn't respond.
Yeah. Will you not to give editing work
to
Gwen, can you tell me who it is and beep it out?
I'm editing this one, so it's perfectly fine. It was the people who made.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's rough.
I was really annoyed, actually.
It's annoying, but also like it's hard to describe that. It's a bad feeling.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
And it's hard though, right? Because it's like there's nothing wrong with not liking a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The entire my entire life is predicated on that. It's my job. So yeah, it's very tricky.
Yeah.
Very tricky as a thing. Yeah. So it does happen, and it is mostly a source of torture.
Yeah, I don't care for that.
No.
Yeah.
What does Greg say?
That was so not a lightning round answer.
No, but it was
it hit a nerve.
The balls.
Yeah. Greg, is there a franchise in media that you don't like, books, movies, etc., but
yes,
you enjoy?
I said in the last question.
That you don't like books, movies, etc., but that you enjoy the games for. Can you enjoy a game despite not liking the franchise?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to think of a specific example right this second of that, but I don't see why not.
Yeah. I was never especially into, DuckTales even as a kid, but that game slaps.
There's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah. That game is great. That's a big one. Any kind of adaptation of a cartoon like that. Same thing with Rescue Rangers. I was fine with Rescue Rangers. That game is fun. Yeah, absolutely. I kind of like, I don't like Star Wars, but I like one of the FPSs that everyone liked. I played the first one with the Force push.
Yeah, Jedi Knight or
Jedi
whatever
Knight.
it was.
Yeah, I played that around the time and liked it quite a bit. I like FPSs with superpowers.
Yeah,
it's a secret genre I like quite a bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No. And then basically, yeah, anything also, this would probably be true for you. Any comic thing that we end up doing, when you eventually on a long enough timeline do Midnight Suns, I think you will find a lot to like about that combat.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not expecting you to, but still for Axis, it's a masterpiece in terms of mechanics. But you're not even to the degree that you like X-Men and stuff, you're not into the Midnight Suns.
Yeah, no, I had no idea what the Midnight Suns were until that came out. That's not dislike. It's just utter, not utter disinterest, because I don't know, I can find that stuff neat. It's just not a medium that I, or a genre that I get especially into. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a big Ghost Rider.
Right.
Andrew. No.
Yeah.
Michelle says, what arcade game do you think you put the most money into? For me, it's either Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or the Terminator 2 pinball table.
Oh,
Great question.
This has to be Street Fighter 2 in various iterations across time.
Over a long enough timeline.
Yeah.
That's probably me too. Even though at the time I got into that was there weren't a lot of arcades in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
So and my arcade golden age was before Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
Or like when I was a little too young.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too crowded. So around the time that I got really into Street Fighter 2, there was a home version.
Yeah.
You know, that we played that a lot on Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So that, but it's probably something like that.
Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 2, that had a real big Mortal Kombat kind of phase as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I put a lot of money into the X-Men arcade game.
You know, that came up in my mind too. Yeah.
Yeah. Beating that one with my friends, being the premier beat 'em up for me and my friends and Turtles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times.
Good times. Arcades are good, everybody. Speaking of, Aiden writes, do either of you visit arcades often? If so, do you have any favorite spots? Some of my favorites are Ground Control in Portland and Jupiter Bar in Seattle, which I highly recommend if you get the chance. Thanks as always for the great content. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll have to check out Jupiter Bar next time I'm in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to go as much as I used to. Portland is a good arcade town. I've been more homebody pilled since being married, but I get to go from time to time. We have Ground Control. We also have Quarter World, which I think is a little bit better than Ground Control now. And then we have Next Level, which is a world-renowned arcade that just opened up 2 new big rooms. I had plans to go to that, and I've been having some health stuff, so that got canceled, but that's on the horizon at some point.
Nice.
Would really like to go to that again and check out the new stuff. Apparently one room is all pinball, which is great. But the other room is just like weird arcade cabinets.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely my jam. Like some kind of weird coin op, platformer or something that I've never heard of is like my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
And arcade.
I don't know. That 3D survival horror rail shooter that we played, that was kind of translated, but not. Would not have encountered that anywhere else other than Next Level.
Yep. Next Level is so good.
Yeah.
That one, we talked about that before. That has haunted house effects. There are air bursts that pop out when like doors open and stuff.
Yeah. Like a breeze blows on your neck when there's a ghost on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. And every boss ends with somebody throwing you a rocket launcher. Like it is actionably Resident Evil. Like it's real silly.
For me, like weirdly, the town that I'm in, like a town of like 9,000 people, has a bar arcade that is pretty good. Not huge, but there's good stuff there. And it's been open for several years, basically for as long as I've been here. It's called Planet 14. I go there probably about once a month. Don't be creepy. It's a small town. I am revealing the town in which I live. But yeah, it's good. They've got a good selection of pinball, like probably, I don't know, 7, 8 tables, something like that, which is not Next Level, but bigger than this town should have. And some good, like mostly like real old arcade stuff.
Yeah. For me, a pinball, like 7, 8 tables of pinball is good.
Yeah.
To me, like I like a variety of pinball, but my pinball appetite is not so that I'm going to sit, like Next Level has, hundreds of pinball tables, and at any given visit, I'm going to play like 5. So that's good.
Yeah. And they have Medieval Madness, which is kind of enough for me.
As long as they have your favorite.
Yes.
That's always also real big shout out to the Galactics Arcade and Tap House in Astoria, Oregon. The Basement Arcade, which has one of 2 copies in the entire world of the Le Schwab pinball machine, which is based on Le Schwab tires, and is the pinball machine I got engaged in front of.
Oh, wow.
So that is a special place in my mythology.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Le Schwab pinball machine has a big stake, like a rubber meat on the thing, because Le Schwab's gimmick when they first started out was that it was like Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York. Like you would go there and get tires and they'd be like, help yourself to a decent piece of meat on your way out.
Why not?
And you'd grab a steak from a fucking freezer on your way out of the tire store.
Why not?
And this is reflected in the Le Schwab pinball machine, of which this exists here and in the Schwab headquarters.
Huh.
Apparently, the Next Level guy has been hounding the Galactics guy to try to buy it.
Oh no! Come on.
Yeah,
that needs.
it's
to
really
stay.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. But that's a really cool arcade. There's a lot of rarities. It's small, but there's tons of weird stuff, and it's designed like in I Think You Should Leave season 2, the space bar that Tim Heidecker's in.
Yeah.
It's designed exactly like that. There's no alien that comes out of the wall, but it's like it's real goofy.
Are there Lego heads in the corn?
It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You eat the Lego heads. Cinderelf says, "What up, gamer god Gary and cool COD or Cole? What are some of your most epic gamer moments?" And then there's a confused, like the googly-eyed gremlin from Gremlins 2 face, the devil horns with the hand, and then a fire.
I don't keep track of these. There's probably been some real cool stuff that I've done on stream. I just don't, I am not out there for pog or play of game.
It's hard to joke answer this joke question.
Yes.
Because I have an honesty disease where I take every premise seriously.
Yeah.
And the real answer to this is I don't feel good about video game things.
Yeah.
I never, that's not me. Like there are cool things I've done. Definitely like in Baldur's Gate 3, I've done cool stuff, where I've been like, oh, I'm proud of this tactic.
Yes.
Like this tactic was very effective. That's really cool. But then I'm like, okay, on to the next thing.
Yeah. Oh man, I had this completely epic interpretation of the Insulindian Phasmid conversation in Disco Elysium.
yeah. Like, it's just not how I play video games. And it probably corresponds with like not playing tons of multiplayer. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is Will, who I reference a lot, my friend who thinks about games, writes the games coverage on the AV Club, had a thing about Overwatch, I remember. And he was talking about Overwatch and like what it does is create hero moments, like where you feel like a hero.
Yes.
And I was like, that's really interesting as a thing to read about. It's not a DNA I have. Like, but it was cool to get the insight, like sincerely.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a thing that is missing in my DNA.
Yeah. Oh, I have two. I'm going to give them real quick. One time when I was playing in a clan match for Team Fortress Classic, I was playing engineer and I shouldn't have been out of position, but the clock was running down and the other team was on the way back to their base with our flag. I just happened to take a pot shot with a shotgun, across the map. It was just a Hail Mary. I chased the guy, killed the guy, and that stopped us from losing the match. Nice. So that was good. And I don't think
that is epic.
I don't think this was me, but it happened when I was there playing Halo on the big snowy map. Somebody used a rocket launcher. Similar situation, end of a capture the flag game. Used a rocket launcher to shoot the Jeep there, like from a huge distance, like rocket sniped this Jeep. The Jeep flew into the air and landed on the guy who was running the flag, killing him. Nice. And ensuring our team's victory. Yeah. It was a really good moment. None of us believed what happened because it was split screen, we all saw it.
That's great. Yeah. That's real cool.
Yeah. Let's see. JQ writes, I recently finished up my going into the DLC character in Elden Ring, so that's been on my mind. And my only question is, one Crucible Knight versus a gaggle of DS1 Torch Hollows. Who are you putting your money on?
That's a good question.
How big of a gaggle?
That's the thing. Because the Crucible Knight has a lot of stamina. It's hard to stagger. You have to stagger him.
Yes.
Otherwise, he's just going to sweep through everybody.
Yeah.
And if he gets that second phase, he's going to do that dragon sweep thing. And this is going to take every Torch Hollow out that's in his way in one hit.
Yeah. If we're talking anything under 150 of them fuckers, I think the Crucible Knight's going to get him every time.
Like when I think gaggle, I think like
I don't know,
11.
Yeah, gaggle's
not very many.
Gaggle's somewhere between a handful and a bunch, right?
Yeah, a gaggle might be like a bunch or a little bit more than a bunch to me, but it's right in that zone. Like it's not enough to take him out. I think
gaggle's more about volume than number. I think
that's true.
Yeah.
Like 3 bowling balls is a gaggle.
That's a gaggle of balls right there.
That's a gaggle of balls. That's a gaggle of balls. Yeah. Little pro tip. If you are also going into the DLC, I struggled with this before I decided to do it, but I just downloaded a save that was at the end game because I didn't want to replay the game because I'm doing other stuff. And you can do this if you have PC. You get a character that has all the stuff.
Yeah.
And this is going to allow me to try some weapons I didn't try before and save me 30 hours.
Yes.
So I love Elden Ring. Depending on which day you ask me, it's my favorite FromSoft game. I've just played it all the way through 3 times. It's a long game. I don't want to replay it again.
What did you search for to find that? Just so people can know. Because like you found like a whole it was like a whole library of characters with like different builds, right?
It's just on Nexus mods. I searched just character save file download, and somebody has end of game character. Let me, I think I can just tell you what it is.
Okay.
Multiplayer safe, level 125 and 150 characters.
Okay.
So if you search that, you have to do a mod manager. It's not nothing. Like, it's a little bit annoying to do the mod manager stuff. A little counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But once you get it, you get a 150 level character, has most of the weapons, most of the spells, not everything. And then upgrade material. The big thing is 10 larval tiers.
Yep.
So you can, respec and then upgrade materials to bring a couple weapons up.
Yeah.
To max. So that way I'm just not replaying the game. I've done all the stuff I can go into the DLC with, because I don't know what the DLC is going to be. I don't want to get stuck in a build that like the DLC is like, oops, everything is resistant to Scarlet Rot.
Yeah,
or what have you.
And if I very specifically, ran and got the stuff for the build that I want, leaving everything else, run into a wall, and then have to go and do all of this content to get what I need. Yeah,
have to grind or do the content or anything like that. I'm just not interested. So on PC, this allows you to do that. I recommend it.
Yes.
And if you don't want to like just replay the game, like it's a great game.
Yeah.
Like if I wasn't playing other games for work, I'd be happy to replay it. I think. Finally, Steven says, have you guys thought about doing more VR games for the show? Recently bought RE4 VR and having a blast. Also saw there was a Vampire the Masquerade game that came out. Much love from Steven in Canada. Hey, Steven.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We talked about this last episode.
We did. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. It's hard to do in terms of the degree to which we consider audience.
Yes.
I have interest. I know that you have a lot of interest in doing this. There are a couple of games I'd love to do.
Yes. The Room VR one, right?
The Room VR would be very cool. I think that'd be great. Resident Evil 4 VR would be a weird episode. Like it almost had to be a Patreon bonus because we've already basically done that game, but it does play really differently.
It does. Yeah.
I think that game is really cool. There's something about seeing holy spaces in a whole new way like that. The trick is VR has a really small install base.
Yes.
So the number of people who have the thing and can play along or be engaged with it is by definition smaller.
It's frustrating because the one VR game that we did, Half-Life Alyx, like did gangbusters numbers actually. But that is part of a massive and beloved franchise that had no new content for 14 years before that came out.
And it's also like the killer app for VR.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, right? Like it's a full robust game. Yeah. It's not a port or it does not feel compromised in any way.
Yeah, there are plenty of games that I think would be worth talking about. I don't know, an episode on Walkabout Mini Golf, just talking about the courses would be really fun. Asgard's Wrath 2 is a really good Zelda-like in my mind. Bone Lab is great as a fun like shooter / Gary's mod kind of thing with a campaign built into it. Like I obviously would be down for a bunch of this because I talk about VR stuff with some frequency on the level. It's just a matter of practically like space. Like a lot of the stuff that I just described requires more space than Gary has in his apartment right now.
It's true.
And then there's the audience stuff, right?
Yeah. So if I might be changing houses at some point, if that is the case, I'm hoping to have more room. Which will take care of that. And then it might be something where we can fit one in a year. We just can't lean too heavily on it because of audience stuff.
Yes.
It's also a thing too, where like, this isn't my fault, but about half the stuff I played on VR has made me feel really sick. I still don't have the inner ear sea legs for a lot of stuff. So things where I can do the teleport to walk, but that did influence my Half-Life Alyx experience a lot.
Right.
As a thing, like I would have liked that game better if I didn't feel motion sick.
Yeah, if you had the continuity of movement. Yeah.
I had the continuity of movement, but that made, I couldn't do it. So like there are just some like physical, things. See also The game I was going to do, but I'm colorblind and I can't read
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cruelty Squad. Yes.
Cruelty Squad. Like that's, it's not my fault. It kind of sucks, but it's just kind of the way it works.
Yep.
So let's do our topic.
Let's do. Dylan writes, my fiance and I got a Switch a couple of months ago. It's my first new console since the GameCube, having been a PC gamer for new stuff. So I'm having a blast catching up on all the new releases of the past 8 years. Even more fun is that my fiance never played console video games beforehand. So I get to watch someone brand new to all of these things I've internalized for over 25 years. She's having so much fun, but she'll occasionally tell me how she feels like she's behind in what the game expects her to already know by virtue of it being a game. I grew up playing Super Nintendo, where the relative simplicity of stuff like Super Mario World made for an easy intro to the semiotics of games, and everything else feels like an iteration on those early principles. According to my fiance, a lot of modern games feel like they already expect you to know how to play them. What makes a good modern introduction or instruction to the principles of gaming? Perhaps reductively, what is today's Super Mario 1-1 equivalent, where you learn what a game is by playing it?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah. Hard question.
Super hard question. I don't know that we're going to come with a good answer for this, but
no.
It's worth talking about.
Games have
interesting.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, like, what's interesting is this question, I think, is easier to answer for a kid.
Yes.
My understanding of my friends who have kids, people who have, you just see what the kid is interested in and then you let them play that.
Yeah.
Right. Like my friend Brian, who plays drums in the band, he has a couple sons and he's into retro games and he just like does it. And one of them will be interested in something, like they'll take a look at what he's playing and be like, that looks cool. And he's like, give it a shot and just lets him play. And he figures out the same way we did.
Yeah.
When you're younger. If your fiance knows video games generally, has played other, PC games and things like that, games have gotten so much more complicated in that, like, which I think the point you were going into.
Yeah.
That there is like a baseline literacy that is kind of expected with some of these things, especially I think navigating in first person is a thing that is assumed, but is not necessarily intuitive if you don't know how to do it.
Yes. That is a perennial problem, right? Like my stepdad, he found out that we had a James Bond game and like, oh my gosh, I love James Bond movies. I want to sit down and play this. He got his hands on GoldenEye. I was like, I don't, this is too much. And then never picked up a video game again.
I'm Bond. Same thing I always think of Portal, which is like a masterful game design example, teaches you how to play it, except it also, you have to be okay moving around.
You almost
like in first person.
Like Portal used to be like a go-to example for this is low stakes. This is a great way to learn how to navigate 3D space. That was a go-to example for a while, but I think that some kind of I don't know. I think Gone Home actually might be a good one because it is a familiar kind of space. There is enough engagement there between the mystery and the nostalgia. And there's literally nothing that can hurt you. Whereas in Portal, there is that extra step above and beyond just getting around, which is conceptualizing of a 3D space with this, with the central mechanic, right?
The reason why I think that, like, I agree with you that like Portal used to be the example. I think it fell out of the example, and it might be a good example again now.
Yeah,
is because this is about like onboarding console stuff. Previously, Portal was just on PC.
Yeah.
So like learning how to do mouse and keyboard movement is a little bit different now that Portal's on everything.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm not disputing Gone Home. I think that's also a good answer.
Yes.
For this, I think like Gone Home into Portal is probably good. Like one teaches you like you're aiming more than just what you're looking at. Like you're considering sight lines. There are things that are kind of there's more peripheral awareness.
Yeah.
Which is a good skill to have. In that. It's hard to think of what would be prior to Gone Home with that. Like, what is the thing that onboards you onto that idea?
This is where this is much easier for kids answer gets thrown in. I imagine this might be true for adults, but another common answer that sometimes comes up with Portal on this is any of the Lego games. because there are tons of them. They are functionally pretty identical to each other. But
there's a theme for whatever you like.
Yes.
So like you can be onboarded onto whatever aesthetic.
Right. So you can be brought in by Star Wars, by Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Like there's just enough of those. Yeah. The the idea of like getting somebody used to games, it does kind of have to go through kids a little bit. You don't want to infantilize your fiance, but like one of the great things about being on a podcast with Dennis on the level, Dennis has 3 kids and wants to share his enthusiasm for games with them. And there's a bunch of stuff that they really like that they have spent a ton of time getting to play together. And it is like the widest disparity of things. Like the kids really enjoy playing Minecraft Legends, which is the Minecraft Diablo-like. They obviously love Mario Kart, but the one that surprised me was they're really into playing Slay the Spire with their dad. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because he like talks through the options and has them make decisions and stuff like that, which is the core of it. I think what I'm getting at with this is that like it's easy to find the Mario 1-1 because a lot of games were that. Gaming used to be much more monolithic, right? Never exactly the same. Like you had, Mario came along at the same time that the Bard's Tale did, or Wizardry, or whatever.
Yeah.
There's always that console PC kind of split that goes on there. There's so much variety now, so much more. So it's hard to find like a catch-all.
I would say, I think that makes sense, as a thing for sure. I think that the not infantilizing part is hard too.
Yes.
You don't want to like go to your fiance and be like, here's a ball, you can bounce it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what the Lego games are. A weird kind of like, I'll throw in something here. Play Super Mario Wonder.
Oh yeah.
Like modern Mario games are also really interested in onboarding you. And they, that's not going to teach you moving around in third person. It's not going to teach you, any of those things, but there are principles in that were not available in Mario 1-1. And it's still as interested in being gentle.
Yes.
As that like
up to the point of having the no fail characters, right?
Yes. So you can get used to it. If, and it's not super hard even without that. Like a modern, and then that can transition really easily to like Mario 3D World or, Mario 3D Land, something like that, like the 2.5D ones to kind of get around that. I think you'd want to move up dimensions.
Yeah.
Maybe would be a way. It would also be a thing too, where like, and I'm sure Dylan has asked this, like I'm going to say something that's going to make it sound like Dylan hasn't asked his fiance this. You'd want to know what she's struggling with. What they're struggling with. Right. Like they expect you to know how to play it. That is a thing. Right. But what specifically is holding up? Like it is the navigating in space. Is it the peripheral awareness? Is it the number of options? Like, you put your hands on a modern FPS control scheme. There's a lot going on there that, alternate fire, iron sights, crouching, things like that. Like there's health systems that are varied depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many of the most popular games are traps for this, I imagine, specifically because of one thing and one thing only, which is crafting. There are kids who grew up with Minecraft or whatever who just have it was required of them to intuit a lot of stuff that is never directly asked of them, and an adult sitting down to something like that for the first time, like, oh, well, how was I supposed to know that to make a sword I had to put like the things in a line, and it's not there, it's not communicated to you. So like there's a bunch of stuff that I think just assumes too much knowledge, and it's all the most popular things.
Poisonous.
Yeah.
It's all those poisonous things, and a lot of times you don't actually have to do it. It's just there, but it takes up so much menu and tutorial space.
Yeah.
And just the things you're going to find. Like we talk about the economy and like pickups and stuff in games, and how a crafting system basically adds thousands and thousands of no value and low value items to the world.
Well, tell me what I'm supposed to care about.
Yeah. Like why, and if you're just sitting down to play a game and if you don't know the fact that there's chaff Like you don't know that the game will put things in there that you're not supposed to care about. You're just like, oh, I picked this this piece of wispweed up. Like I'm sure this is important the same way the sword is important. And it's really insidious.
Yeah.
Like what have they done to us? Why did we let them put so many things that don't need to be there into games? Like,
yeah. I got a couple of months ago, I got a text from my niece asking me advice about buying like a PlayStation or an Xbox. And kind of like when she asked me about the guitar, I just clasped my hands together. I was like, all right, now I can finally be of some fucking use to her.
Yep.
Right. I was like, okay, so what do you want to play? She's never really expressed a lot of interest in video games before that. Had like a DS with some kiddie games, like way back when she was super young. She was like, oh, I've got friends who play like Fortnite and Call of Duty. And I was just, I've got nothing for you. Not just because I don't play those a lot for fun. I can tell you like which, obviously get like a PlayStation 4, try it out. I can lend you one. Her boyfriend just gave her his PlayStation 4. But it's like, I don't know. Those are really complicated to get into. There are going to be a lot of people, even your friends, who are super exasperated at you that you do not just innately understand these things that they have either from playing previous games or from being inculcated into Fortnite for so long, right?
Yeah. It's with something like that, I almost think that you could do worse than following the history.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go too primitive because that shaves off enough ease of use stuff to become frustrating to anybody, but like specifically somebody who's playing modern. But if you're going to like get into Fortnite, right? I feel like you could do worse than like sitting down and playing Doom for a half hour, to kind of get that, and then playing like Medal of Honor for a little while, and then kind of moving up.
And then Half-Life,
Half-Life, like move through time.
Yeah.
And then just spend a lot of time with bots. That's not a fun thing to recommend though. Like, hey, I know you want to play with your friends, but before you're like, again, I don't like multiplayer gaming. Before you won't let your friends down, you have to put in the hours.
Yeah.
Like that's not fun. That's not games.
No. No. And kind of pulling something from Dylan's question here, talking about like, oh, I grew up in the in the Super Nintendo, in the relative simplicity of stuff like Mario World. Super Mario World is still super like it's a great path into this. Like that doesn't go away. I think obviously
it also teaches you as you go.
Yeah,
like you can go left and right at the beginning. If you go left, you get a bonus. It tells you what's going to do it in the world. There are all those signs. We just covered that. It is very impressive, and all of the kind of classics of that era do that too. Like Mega Man X teaches you kind of run and gun. There's a lot of like tutorializing in that first level and things that call back to that specifically. Like the first level of Shovel Knight does a lot to teach you as you play it. It's harder to think of the jumps. It's not finding a specific either a mode like a 2D or a 3D or FPS, something like that is easy to get into is easy. Finding the thing that'll allow you to make that evolutionary leap is hard. And because we struggle, like game developers didn't know how to do it.
No.
Like when we suffered through the control scheme of Mega Man Legends because people didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
At the time. It's
very appropriate that this is at the end of the month where we had Realms of the Haunting, right?
Yes. Which doesn't work. Like they didn't, they didn't really know how to do it. They tried. And it's a beautiful failure, but like you can't expect somebody who's getting into the hobby to respect beautiful failures at this point.
No.
That's a 301 level thing. You don't get there yet. So it's really hard to know what the transitions are.
Yeah.
Like you want to find something that has enough rough edges sanded off, that it's intuitive, but doesn't assume too much knowledge.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to like get into a third person over the shoulder game, like that might be a thing where like Resident Evil 4 is good because it's slow paced. You're going to do that. It's hard, but it's very slow paced comparatively. You're going to do the first one to get it.
Yeah.
What is the first game and the type of game you're trying to play that like actually did it right?
Yeah.
Maybe that is a good answer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful at all. Sorry that is not. I don't have a definitive answer for this. This is tough.
No, it's tough, but I think just like talking about the broad, the kind of the broad principles of this,
Yes,
that is still useful. When I picked this topic, I didn't have a definitive answer in mind.
No.
I knew that we were going to like talk and gesture around what this was.
Yeah. We never have definitive answers.
Never. No, it's not us. It's not our style.
That's not us. Let us move on to game responses.
Let's do. Starting with Driver San Francisco, what does Zachary say?
Zachary says, Driver San Francisco will always have a place in my heart for its insane decision to have you do a tailing sequence in the second-person view, directly controlling the car in front of you instead of the car your camera is in. You'd think it wouldn't be that different from a third-person view, but it's genuinely super disorienting and such a unique event even over a decade out.
It's so short that I feel like we didn't camp on it enough. It is an uncanny feeling.
It is real weird.
Yeah. It's literally just a camera hack, but somehow it still makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Ambitious, neat little game.
Love it. Steven writes, when I heard the Burnout Paradise episode, I knew I had to recommend a game with a story. This is Steven's the one who recommended Driver San Francisco. No matter what you picked, the story was going to be dumb. Driver San Francisco has the best mix of really cool mechanics and the best ever racing game with Jericho in it.
Jericho.
There are no mistakes in Driver. You crashed? Whatever. It's someone else's problem now. I hope you guys cover more cool driving games in the future. Burnout Paradise and Crazy Taxi are awesome. Cole has mentioned Split Second several times, and it is also a blast. Keep it up. Best podcast network. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Steven.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked the episode.
Yeah. I like stretching our wings.
Mm-hmm.
In a general sense, like, into doing more driving games.
Yeah.
I'm bad at them. I'm good at Crazy Taxi, but I'm bad at these other ones, but I still like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's fun.
It is real weird, like doing these and then me finding out that I actually kind of am racing game pilled a little bit.
Yeah.
At least relatively compared to you. Like good car, go fast, good.
No, I love that feeling too. I wish I was better at it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not very good at it. Mm-hmm. As a thing. It just doesn't, like, I'm more of a kart racing.
Yeah.
Like those physics just work for me a little bit better in terms of performance, not in terms of necessarily appreciation.
Yes.
Guy says, in the Driver San Francisco episode, you talked about wanting to see the shifting mechanics used in other racing games. This got me thinking about the time I spent playing the solidly 7 out of 10 non-derogatory Mad Max game and how much I wanted Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system to be part of it and how well that would have fitted. Fighting some lowly war boy who slowly rises through the ranks to be a named character with an axe to grind would have worked perfectly and would have fit nicely into the world of the games and movies. So a question, have you ever encountered a gimmick, concept, features that are only used in one game that you'd like to see elsewhere? Thanks for the ridiculous volume of work you put out, etc., etc.
Yeah. If that addition was made to that Mad Max game, it would go to the top of my list because I need to see somebody go from being nameless to being called the Guzzler.
Yeah, the Guzzler. Like the boss of that game, for people who don't know, is named Scrotus Maximus. There's a lot to like about that game. Non-derogatory 7 out of 10. That for me is a little on the derogatory 7 out of 10. Like I like that game, but if you keep playing it for a long time, it like the economy in that is so beyond broken and shitty.
Yeah,
it becomes the grindiest thing that you've ever grinded. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Like really fun up until that point, and then it's just like, what are you asking me to do?
Yeah, just
like it becomes nuts.
Race for scrap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so much just scrap gathering. Like it's really fun. It is a fun video game that is broken by the economy.
Yeah.
Which makes it like interesting. Like
many
an
such
interesting
cases
game to talk about.
Yeah.
Many such cases. But yeah, that would be a really cool mechanic to have of that. I'm surprised there hasn't been more Nemesis system stuff.
It has
and
to.
Other stuff
it
anyway.
has to be some
copyrighted.
It has to be some kind of weird patent bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That should be illegal.
It should. I just fucking to the sun with it. I don't.
Yeah.
We need that. We need that magic out there, especially if Warner Brothers is not going to do anything with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of a gimmick. Like I think that Nemesis system and the shift system those are such good examples of things that I would like to see applied elsewhere that it's hard to like the shift system. There's a little bit of that actually in the prototype games. That's the one where you're kind of a venom-like creature, not the one where you're an electricity person. You could do like body hijacking stuff. What?
Watch Dogs 3 does that too, right? I haven't played that, but that's the new Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
Does body jacking.
Yeah.
Omicron, the No Man's Soul, does body jacking.
Yeah.
I think the big mechanic that I want to see is all of these racing games. I want to have the bullet time driving from
the Midnight Club
GTA
thing.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a real revelation and allowed me to succeed when I would otherwise fail in a bunch of those.
Yeah.
What does Jimmy have to say about Plague Inc.?
Yeah, moving on to Plague Inc. We got one here. Hi there. Plague Inc. was brought to me by my little sister, who was in an undergrad epidemiology class at the time, and said it was brought up by her professor as a pretty solid, if gamey, resource. That's why I can't help but think of the special missions as essentially the equivalent of a math worksheet. Dozens of examples, each changing just one parameter to demonstrate what you get. That's a really good comparison. Like. Yeah.
Yeah. Mutators, Left 4 Dead mutators. Same kind of thing. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Moving on to Realms of the Haunting. Thank you very much for writing in. Moving on to Realms of the Haunting, Robinson says, I switched on Realms of the Haunting because I wanted to see what a mid-90s FPS point-and-click adventure game played like, and it shouldn't have surprised me when the game turned out to have some jank on it. I craved the jank, though. Using the arrow keys to move and turn alongside the mouse to aim your weapons was awkward, but I enjoyed depowering myself by engaging with the game's clunky controls. It reminded me of when I was young and played Doom with the keyboard only. And despite the controls making me feel compromised with their awkwardness, the game wasn't that hard, although I preferred spelunking through the cozy mansion over exploring alien worlds. The thing that got me to quit was the collecting brains part near the end, so I watched the rest on YouTube so I didn't grow to resent the game that I ultimately think is pretty interesting.
Probably a good strategy.
Ducking out of the brain zone is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I think there are multiple offboarding points in Realms of the Haunting, a game that I think is funny and admirable. I think it probably contains more offboarding points than most games I like. That's probably the final stop. Like, if you can get past that, you may as well just get past the end, but getting past that's a tall ask.
Yeah. Robinson's use case here is, I think, the best possible outcome from us deciding to cover the game. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dylan writes, I first learned about Realms of the Haunting through the YouTube series Ross's Game Dungeon, which is run by the guy who did the Freeman's Mind machinima. Ross is like a chaotic neutral wizard going through the absolute bowels of gaming history, with a focus on games with bizarre mechanics that aren't good, but they are interesting, whatever that might mean. One of his better quotes is that Realms of the Haunting is like a rail shooter, but you build the rails as you go. I don't enjoy this game at all, but I think it's historically kind of fascinating in the same way as Crash Bandicoot. It's in that weird space where you can see the creators learning how to build a game using new tools, new technology, and new ideas. And damn, did they try. Someone had a vision. I think your System Shock 1 comparison was perfect. I get a lot of similar feelings in seeing the developers figure out how to push the FPS genre in adventuresome ways before we got to Half-Life. I'd love to just walk around in the mansion and its grounds. It's barely a horror game, but it easily could be if an indie dev were to strip out the monsters and make it a lonely, haunting experience with these darkened hallways and continuous sense of New England estate weirdness.
Yeah. Like the Alone in the Dark version.
Yeah.
That would be cool, in terms of a kind of a zone.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Crash Bandicoot is a very good comparison as well.
Yeah. Even though I think Crash Bandicoot has more defenders these days, significantly more. People got mad at us for not liking Crash Bandicoot. Nobody's going to get mad at us for
nobody cares
liking Realms of the Haunting, Sam says, the year was 1997 and 14-year-old me was winding my way through a hedge maze in some weird adventure shooter FMV game on the family PC when my mom walked in and told me she knew I'd been using AOL to download porn, and she was very disappointed. Apparently, I'd been printing erotic Clarissa Explains It All fanfic when my mom had come home early one day, and I hastily unplugged the computer and bolted, not realizing that when she started it back up, I would helpfully offer to resume the interrupted print job. My embarrassment ran so deep, scenes from that game that I'd been playing were flash fried into my brain, even though I could never bring myself to pick it up again, and quickly forgot what it was called. A decade and a half later, trying to identify the source of those memories had become my white whale on Google. until I finally recalled enough to dredge up the name, Realms of the Haunting. My attempts to replay it have always been aborted as I rediscover how not fun it is, but I'm looking forward to hearing Gary and Cole explain it all about this game that's haunted me for so long. That's very funny.
I love this response.
That's really great. Man, printing out text porn because it was you had a bad internet connection.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, that's big, and it's plausibly deniable.
Uh-huh.
Like it just like I'm just heading to the basement with my documents. Like these are just the files.
Yeah.
What is suspicious about this, Mom? Like I've just got the files.
Yeah, so you're just hoping that if they see text, they don't like look at it to read. They just say yes, that's words. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's school to me.
Yeah, no,
that's this is just my brief.
No, it's
don't get in my business.
Real familiar. Familiar.
Yeah. That's great.
I also love the idea of just seeing this on GOG and going into a full-on flashback. Like, no, Mom, no, don't plug it in.
Don't plug it in. Yeah. That is, I also like the detail about the mom saying, I know you've been using AOL to download it, because it makes it seem like the porn part's not the problem. It's just using the AOL.
It's real basic of you.
Yeah.
Oh, did you go on to...
We only get 1,000 of those hours. Yeah, and you've used one of them on Clarissa Bangs 'Em All. Which is the name of an actual Clarissa Explains It All porn thing I remember from when I was a teen.
Gross.
Clarissa Bangs 'Em All.
Those are children.
Yeah, super gross. Yeah, they're children. I was a child too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it is gross. I'm not saying I don't go to bat for it now.
I just I thought that was modern.
Yes. No.
Contemporary. Yeah.
I'm not looking for that now.
Okay. I didn't know if you did a search to find an example right now.
No. I try not to look for child porn at work while recording. Try to. Yeah. Fail to. But try not to.
Well, best laid plans.
I'm only human.
Moving on to Tunic here. I called responses that had spoiler stuff, so everybody's safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we also got a lot of responses for this. We're not going to read them all.
Yeah.
We're doing quite a few, but they're, apologies if yours has not been read or anything like that. It's probably because somebody else made a similar point.
Yes.
Yeah. Is this me or you?
This is you.
Jake says, want to write in and sing the praises of Tunic's implementation of New Game Plus. It adds new enemies both to mix up the existing fights, but also uses them to reveal hidden paths you might have missed on your first go-round. Because so much of the game is based on gaining knowledge, New Game Plus gives you the opportunity to push at the edges and sequence break. Keeping your stat upgrades means you're perfectly well equipped to tackle the areas out of order. But then you're in spirit form again and are forced to deal with the more and harder enemies at your weakest. And it has the same impact as the first time. It gives you a victory lap and then asks you to put your skills to the test.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's clever. Anything that does something with New Game Plus, the Dark Souls 2's New Game Plus rather than Dark Souls 3's it.
Yeah.
I'm into.
Yeah.
No.
Just more things should be like Dark Souls 2.
In general,
yeah.
Yeah.
Gordon writes, on paper, Tunic sounded like the perfect game for me and started out with sky high hopes. And I started out with sky high hopes. But the praise the game keeps getting seems completely off from my own experience with the game. I did love the early game. I would poke out into the world and I found abilities and shortcuts that were there all along. It reminded me of being a little kid trying to play a game, but not quite understanding the controls. But as I progressed, the combat got frustrating. The puzzles never felt clever or satisfying. The game devolved into a less good version of Death's Door, and it got shelved. I feel like I'm out of step with popular opinion, so I'm interested in finding out if I'm the weirdo on this one.
You and I are the weirdos on it. Most people really love this. I still think it's really admirable and cool. Like I did enjoy my time with it to a degree.
Yeah.
I'm probably closer to where you are on it. I never played Death's Door. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Even the game's defenders, I think, will say that the difficulty gets a little silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not alone in that.
It's okay being an outlier and stuff.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's fine.
Jimmy says, hi there. Tunic is a game I obsessed with. I played through when it came out with my wife, and we felt enamored by the clever puzzle design. She didn't grow up around games and had no context for the NES manual and homages, but the act of discovering clues around every corner made for a compelling experience. It's about as close as a game has come to recreating that the experience of the whole family collectively mulling over an older, more obtuse puzzle game. For me, Tunic falls about as close to the Gary Butterfield definition of perfect game. Can't wait to listen to the show. Even if you end up hating it, I'll be okay. We didn't hate it.
Nope.
I'm cooler on it, but I still admire it and liked it. And Cole really liked it.
Yeah. And that experience sounds really great. Introducing somebody who didn't have that experience, looking at the manuals and doing all of that kind of stuff, but emulating and giving them a version of it is neat. And I think one of the better use cases for Tunic that I've heard. Yeah. Chris writes, long/first. I'm happy to hear you'll be covering Tunic. It sounds like Gary isn't a fan of games where you decode a language, but I love them. For me, Tunic pairs that very well with its general theme of discovery and exploration. Finding the manual pages in-game was incredibly satisfying. I loved getting to pull out my paper charts and decode some new words, and it brought back the feeling of obsessively poring over manuals and strategy guides as a kid. Having all that in a game that is otherwise a fun Zelda-like was a perfect little treat for me. If Cole or other listeners do like language games, I strongly recommend Chants of Sennaar, where cultural differences and unique grammars add a wonderful touch.
Nice.
Yeah. There's also, I think, Heaven's Vault that does something with that too. Yeah. It's a whole subgenre.
Language wonks are eaten good.
Yes.
In the last few years. It is like a new subset of puzzle stuff.
Yeah.
There are plenty of them.
Plenty of them.
Yeah. Zane says, I hope it's the Zane. It's not because the last name is different, but I'd love to meet a Zane in the wild. Zane says, Tunic's been on my wish list since it came out, and you covering it for the show coincided with my wife and I looking for a new co-op game. It turns out that Tunic is a co-op game if one person has Dark Souls reflexes and the other has JRPG, I am 100%ing every room brain. It's also fun to brainstorm together on what different objects do before you gain the in-game context for them. Once we learned the prayer mechanic, we were so sure we would be able to make use of those tuning forks strewn around everywhere. But once that didn't work, we realized their spacing would be perfect for a hookshot analog. One thing I'm not sure was intentional, but it's genius if it is the first two types of enemy, one blobby and one spiky. I knew that the game involved learning symbols, so when I saw these, I exclaimed, it's Kiki and Boba. In case you don't know, this is a psychological finding that when people are presented with a rounded shape and a spiky shape and asked to name them, Kiki or Boba, almost everyone names the round one Boba. Even if it wasn't intentional, it led me to give the game a lot of trust in its use of symbols and to go with my first guess about what items do rather than try to outsmart myself. Or is that what they're called in the game?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not. They're called like slimes or something else. I only found out about Kiki and Boba recently. Did you know about this?
No, but it seemed like non-derogatory obvious to me. Boba sounds round.
It's this is across cultures too, not not just in English language. Like just there's something about those syllables that seems to that seems to track over. Yeah.
Well, it's like how languages can sound, like like Klingon sounds harsh.
Yes.
It sounds spiky. This just feel like, again, non-derogatory. This is interesting. I'm not trying to dismiss the entire thing of Kiki and Boba, the entire Kiki and Boba industry. I'm not throwing it out. It just, it sounds like, it's like, oh yeah, of course. Like some words have like woo sounds, which sounds more like something rolling and
your
sound sharper.
Yeah. Your mouth is more wide open, more rounded, with Boba. Yeah.
You're making more of a vowel sound. Like one's a consonant focus thing and one's vowel.
It's one of those
percussive, one's not.
It's one of those things that makes perfect intuitive sense, but to find out that it has been codified and yes, I do believe is still interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say it's not interesting.
Yes.
It's just like, yeah, of course. That makes sense.
Yeah.
A spiky and a roundy.
And it sounds like you also had a great use case with this, with the two different kinds of brains meeting to be perfect for what Tunic was asking of you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Avery, for writing in.
Mm-hmm.
What should they do if they have things to say about next month's games?
If they have things to say about next month's games, which are, and I need to pull up the list because I always forget.
Got it.
Yeah, next month's games are Life and Suffering of Sir Brant, Project Snowblind, and the premium episode is A Link Between Worlds, the Legend of Zelda game for the 3DS. If you have thoughts about those games, write in by June the 15th at Duckfeed.tv. /contact. Click the WAF button and submit. And Gary, what can they do if they want to play along for July?
You write in by July 15th, and this is our summer console RPG month. So the first 2 episodes are going to be on Mario the Thousand Year Door.
Paper Mario.
Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door.
Yes.
The sequel to Paper Mario, the rare JRPG I'm pretty excited to play. I really like Paper Mario.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said this one's better. So I'm real curious.
I do not have experience with this one. I love Paper Mario as well, and I am real excited. This was kind of a natural fit. This is a patron demand, but also like we're recording this episode on the day that the Switch remake comes out. So like this is also striking while the iron is hot, intersecting with a game that both of us really want to play. So
yeah, I don't want to get anybody thinking like, yeah, you guys can just throw summer console RPGs at the sponsorship thing. We don't do those very often.
Yeah, once a year.
From a patron sponsor. We don't do them. I mean, a patron usually doesn't pick those.
Yes.
And that's on me because I don't like them very much, but that's been litigated over the course of more than a decade.
Yes.
But this is just a rare coincidence. Where it just worked out. The premium episode for this, I'm also excited about. This is a cold pick. We're doing Quake.
Quake 1 also been remade relatively recently. I have history with this. Gary does not.
Very mild history, but I picked it up. But I was a Doom guy.
Yeah. This was a game that was like, I got a computer that was just barely good enough to run it. And I was like, ooh, interesting. I'm aiming with a mouse. That's cool.
I'm excited to play it. I love id. And I love shoring up a blind spot. Yeah. Especially in a genre I like a lot. It's got a developer I like a lot.
Got good monsters in it and, all that Lovecraftian stuff. And Gary, Beat Still Your Heart, Trent Reznor soundtrack.
Oh my God. The Rez. Trenty Rez. It's also, the end boss of it is Shub Niggurath, I want to say. It's got some tenuous connections.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, so write in by July 15th on those. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please separate them into multiple responses. Keep your responses concise and specific, please.
Yes. If you are listening to this and you are a minority of any kind, and you would like us to shout out a project or product, please send me an email at gary@duckfeed.tv. Be happy to do it. This month, I want to do a quick shout out to username Atomic, who is a game dev and animator from Utah, who has games up on itch.io, but also is specifically promoting their commissions for 2D pixel art and low poly 3D models. So if you go to ko-fi.com/mightbeatomic, spelled just like it sounds, you can find them and get a commission. If you want a cool Dreamcast era looking AVI or a model for a project you're working on or anything like that. Yeah. This stuff has never been hotter. We are in the era of like Dreamcast, Nintendo 64 stuff coming to prominence. So I hope that this kind of low poly 3D model stuff that Atomic is working on does gangbusters.
Yeah, go there, get one of these Avies, and be trendy for once in your goddamn life.
The animations that they do and the itch.io's, the tag is Might Be Atomic.
Yes,
everywhere. So look for Might Be Atomic.
I am going to keep their page open and take a look.
Yeah, and again, we're happy to do that. We didn't have some for a while, and now we have several.
Nice.
It comes and goes. Quick. I don't think I've mentioned this before. If your thing is at all time sensitive, so sometimes somebody will have something coming out or a Kickstarter. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I would appreciate it if you send it, you send it, let me know, but then send me a reminder.
Yes.
I think that we may have missed one. Somebody sent me one and then I asked them to do a reminder and I don't think they did. I feel a little bit bad about that, but I'm not looking to take an extra job where I'm like,
you setting calendars and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to set alarms for this kind of thing. So I'll ask you to send me a reminder. Hopefully that's cool. And we appreciate that. And if I did miss yours because of that, I apologize. It's not intentional. It's just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. But yeah, email those to Gary at Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah. What else can they do? You can join us on Patreon if you want to hear those bonus episodes. So Tunic is a premium episode, and Link Between Worlds and Quake, all those games and all those old ones we've done are all premium episodes. You get those for being $5 a month on Patreon.
You get all of them. It's probably approaching maybe like, I think 80 of them right now, something like that. I don't know. Time is meaningless.
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of them, and they're really good episodes. I think, generally. You also get bonus shows.
You do,
which is really good. At $5 and at $10, you get even more. Get extra bonus shows. We talked about When You Die in the Game, You Die in Real Life. Our show that covers that kind of stuff, $10.
Yes.
And you have to hear us talk about Stay Alive.
You must. You must.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it.
Whatever you assume that movie is, it's not. I assure you.
Exactly. Watch the trailer and try not to absolutely die from cringe. I sent that to Derek, and he's like, "There's no way I can make it through this." And I was like, which was fun.
Yeah. You can also leave ratings or reviews if you would like to, or help spread the word on social media. Just posted about this on Patreon today. Duckfeed has an Instagram and a Facebook now, posting small clips of the show, or Instagram and TikTok, rather. Sorry, caught in a different generation.
Yes.
It's Duckfeed.tv on both of those. I post short clips of episodes around the day that they come out, and we would really benefit from those being shared around. Do all the algorithm boost stuff.
Yeah, that stuff is a thing. We're trapped in it, just like you are. And then also join us in thanking our producer, Gwen, currently on tour with her band, Trash Sound Conglomerate. Check them out where you can find bands online if you like queer punk music.
Nice. I think that's about it. Yeah,
that's all the things. We appreciate you. Be safe. Check your parts,
please.
And we will see you next week with the life and suffering of Sir Brante, which is great.
Yep.
Also, by the way,
very good game.
Love that game. Yeah, I'm very, very happy that ended up on our radar. I never would have played it otherwise. One of my favorite games I played this year.
Yeah.
So, bye.
Bye.